Wow, hello there, honey. How's my favorite granddaughter doing?
Hi, Nanny. Well, school just got out, and I was wondering, since the summer has finally started, maybe you and I could head to the amusement park? What do you say?
Oh, now that sounds fun. I love roller coasters. Even after all these years, I can't get enough of them.
Why do you think I asked you? How long have you been riding rides, Nanny?
Oh, ever since I was a little girl, I suppose. Roller coasters, water slides, mini golf go-karts. If it was fun, I was there. Pretty much spent half my teenage years standing in line for one ride or another. That's where I met your grandfather, you know. And then when your dad was born, he became my park buddy. It was fantastic fun until, well, you know.
No, I don't know. Until what?
Well, uh, they probably taught you about this in your history class, but way back in 2020, things were a little different. That was the year of the coronavirus. They declared a pandemic and the whole world shut down for a few months. Your grandfather, your father, and I all had to live together 24 hours a day for months. I couldn't wait to get back to the park, to be outside, having fun. But when we were finally able to go back, it was a little different. It had to be in order to keep everyone safe, you know?
What do you mean different? How can a park or a ride be different?
Well, as I recall, back in those days, a lot of people were nervous about visiting an amusement park. All they could think of was the big crowd of people and long lines at the rides. But your grandfather worked for intergalactic ride training. Well, it was called International Ride Training back in 2020. And together with IRT's friends in the amusement park industry, they came up with a new way to run the park. It made all of us feel safe, even though it was different.
But how was it different? I mean, they still had the 1,000-foot drop ride, right? And you could still play zero G slam dunk to win the anti-grav basketball, couldn't you?
Oh, no. They wouldn't come up with those things for a few years yet, but they had plenty to do. No, it wasn't different because of what you could do. It was different in how you did them. For example, all the parks did a lot of planning to make sure that everyone had plenty of space in the park. Back in 2020, there was this thing called the CDC, and
I know what the CDC is, Nanny. The Continuous Dematerialization Circuit. It's what powers the teleportation system that takes us wherever we want to go. See? Now I'm in Paris. Now I'm in Jamaica. Now I'm at your house. And now I'm back home, all because of the CDC.
are you done now? No, not that CDC, the Centers for Disease Control. The CDC said that to keep everyone safe in public, we all had to be 6 feet away from each other and we had to wear face masks so we didn't accidentally make somebody sick. When I took your father to the park, we had to make a reservation before we got there. Some parks took our temperatures as we walked in, and they only let a certain amount of people in, less people that were normally there. So all had plenty of space, usually a lot more than 6 feet to ourselves. Of course, since we were all living together, it was okay for your father and I to be close together. They also installed a lot of places where you could wash your hands or use hand sanitizer, not to mention all the extra cleaning you could see going on. And they had a lot of signs reminding everyone to stay 6 feet apart and to wash your hands.
I bet having a personal isolation force field like we have now really would have helped. But what about rides? Was that different in 2020 also?
Oh, yes. We didn't have electron measurement back then, so ride operators had to measure with a sign, or of all things, a stick. But with the coronavirus, the ride operator couldn't get too close. So in order to have a precise measurement,
I just need to check your measurement before you enter the ride. Can I please have some assistance with the measurement? Please stand with your back to the sign, feet together, and please take your hat off. Thank you and enjoy the ride.
even the line was different than it usually was. Everyone was afraid of being stuck in a line close to other people waiting for the ride. But lots of parks used apps on your phone, and that could help you avoid long waits. Once you were in the line, you had plenty of space. Some parks redesigned the line so we didn't walk back and forth, since that would have made people get too close. And they had markings on the ground that were 6 feet apart so people would know where to stand. And we also knew we were 6 feet away from someone else. Once we got up to where we were going to get on the ride, things were a little different there too. I know you really like to wait for the front seat on the hyperspace levitation coaster they just built, but they wouldn't let us wait for a seat back in 2020. They assigned you a seat so they could make sure everyone had enough space. Plus, sometimes they gave you hand sanitizer as you were about to board, just for safety's sake. Just like today, ride operators were always there to help you while you were getting on and off the ride. But they usually didn't offer a helping hand, more like a steady elbow or shoulder. Remember, back then, it was all about keeping your hands as clean as possible, even for employees.
None of this seems too bad, Nanny, but they didn't have skeletal magnets back then to hold you into the ride. They had those funny little bars and belts, or the ones that went over your shoulders. I bet they couldn't avoid touching those.
Sometimes they did. At some places, ride operators had you check your own restraints while they watched you carefully, of course.
Please pull your bars to the lowest comfortable position, and then push up. Thank you. Please pull your bar to the lowest comfortable position, and then push up. Thank you.
But at some rides, the operators still checked you themselves. But when they did that, I remember the operator wore extra protection over their faces. That made me feel a lot better about the operator getting so close. And I bet it made them feel better too. And there were even some times where the operator could check the ride just by looking at it to make sure we were all safe and secure. They couldn't always do it that way, but sometimes they could. I even remember that ride operators were really careful about even touching the entrance and exit gates. They had to make sure they were closed so no one walked in and got hit by the ride. But they wanted to avoid pushing and pulling on the gate with their hands. So they did it with their legs and feet. And at the end of the ride, sometimes they gave you more sanitizer or told you where you could go to wash your hands. Oh, there were other changes in the park too. You should see how they had to change the restaurants and games. Oh, let me tell you that.
Nanny, how about you tell me all about that once we get to the park? I can teleport over and we can leave as soon as you're ready.
All right, all right. I hear you. You don't need to hear all of this ancient history. I'm actually surprised I remember all of this, seeing as those changes only went on for a little while. Sooner than we knew it, things went back to normal, or as close to normal as things could get, until the robots came. But you already know that story. Teleport on over. Let's get out of here. See you soon. Mwah.